everybody, it's Angie from Trips with Angie, and today we are talking about some mistakes I see people make when planning a vacation. I'm a travel agent that loves sharing my travels, tips, and tricks as I go all around the world on cruises, visiting all-inclusive resorts, or taking escorted tours. So the first mistake I see people make is blindly accepting random recommendations from the internet. Yep, I know you've seen those Facebook posts. Hey everybody, where should we go for spring break? And then the entire comment section is filled with anything from Branson, Missouri to the Maldives or Tahiti. Now, it is absolutely incredible to get recommendations from your friends and family of places they've already been. That's your most trusted source. But I really want you to think about the person you're getting that recommendation from. Let me tell you a story. I was working with a client, and when we went over what was super important to them about their vacation, their number one was a great beach. They wanted white powdery sand, perfect blue water, no seaweed. This was it. This was their make or break requirement for their upcoming vacation. So I sent a few different options that met that criteria, and then all of a sudden the client came back and said, we want to go to Moon Palace Cancun. And I was befuddled because there are a lot of great things about Moon Palace Cancun. The beach is not one of them. It's bordered by a mangrove, so it can be a little bit stinky sometimes. It's very narrow, it's brown sand, and it's prone to seaweed. So when I inquired further, like, how did you come across Moon Palace Cancun? She's like, oh, my bestie just went there and she absolutely loved it. And I was like, well, did she tell you about the beach? Well, no, she was talking about the slides and the water park and the food. I was like, that is all true. I'm like, but here's a picture of the beach. And I included a picture of the beach, and she was like, oh no, that would be terrible. So while her best friend had tremendous recommendations for a great time for dining and food, she missed the one thing that her friend was really interested in, which is the beach. So when you're starting your search, contact a travel agent like me, but really think about what's important to you so that when you're asking for recommendations from your friends, you're including those criteria. So when you ask for recommendations, you want to say something like, hey everybody, I'm looking for a spring break recommendation somewhere within a 4-hour drive or a 2-hour flight. We really want to have access to water, so a lake or an ocean, and it's really important that we have great food nearby. So just think of 2 or 3 things that are really important to you and then ask for your recommendations. You may even want to include a price point and say like nothing more than $500 per night. And this will help your friends really narrow in to give you the best recommendation for what's actually going to work for your family. Number 2, bargain shopping without considering quality. This is a big one I see because those ads are just so exciting when you get that ad in your Facebook feed or on the internet that's like, go here for $9.99 per person or $999 per person, whatever it may be. But it's really important to actually look what you're getting, do more research into the resort or the place where you're going. I have a good story about this. So I took an escorted tour to Turkey over a decade ago, and I was absolutely enticed by the price point. It was an incredible deal. It included your flights from New York, it included all your hotels, all of your tours, everything. It was just incredible. I couldn't pass it up. It was such a good deal. But I did no research into the itinerary. This was before I became a travel agent. I did no research into the itinerary. I paid no attention to the fact that we were changing hotels almost every single night, and these places were 6 to 8 hours drive apart. So we would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd have breakfast at 6, out the door on the bus by 7, drive for 5 hours, maybe with a bathroom stop, have lunch in a gas station, drive 2 to 3 more hours, finally make it to the marquee scenic site of the day, spend maybe an hour or 2 there, and then go to a hotel, have a buffet dinner, and go to bed, and do it all the next day. And while I made some of the best memories of my life on that trip, because Turkey is absolutely amazing and you should go there, and the historic sites are absolutely incredible, oh man, I wish I had done a little more research, because maybe we could have spent a few $100s more and had more restful days, been able to see more in a day, spent 2 nights at the hotels. I just wish I would looked more into it. Number 3, booking cheap flights with long or short layovers. Flight pricing right now is ridiculous. I'm looking at flights to Mexico for $1,000. You could get to Europe less in some cities than it is to go to Mexico over spring break. So I know the desire to find that cheap flight, but it's really important when you're looking at the flights, you pull up the full details. The full details. You want to see where you're laying over and how long that layover is. You could be flying from Denver to Washington, D.C. to Mexico and have a 40-minute layover. That is too short of a layover. Because remember, the layover time they're giving you in that itinerary is touchdown to wheels up. So it's when the plane you're on, its wheels land. Now, it could still take you 10 to 15 minutes to get to the gate, and then another 10 minutes to get from your seat on the plane to inside to the gate, and then you still have to walk to your next gate. And most airlines require you to be on board the plane 15 minutes before departure. So that 45-minute layover that looks great is now you running for your life in between terminals at the Atlanta airport. So be really careful when you're choosing these flights. Try to stay away from booking the last flight of the day if you can, because if that gets canceled, you're spending the night. If you look at the layovers and the layover's really long, like 6 or 8 hours, your luggage is gonna get lost. I will say 8 out of 10 times, having that long of a layover, your luggage gets put somewhere in the airport and it takes a little bit longer to find it. Now, I know airlines have been doing better with checked baggage since the Department of Transportation really came down hard on them and created some more fees and fines. It's really important to do your future self a favor and pay that extra $100 now to have a more favorable itinerary with a reasonable layover that isn't going to get you stuck in your connection city. Mistake number 4, tracking reviews after you booked. Now this is a controversial one, and I go back and forth on this all the time. So I know many people, as soon as they book a vacation, the first thing they do is join a Facebook group. A Facebook group about that resort, about that cruise, about the place, and they avidly watch it every day. And I'm going to tell you what happens in those Facebook groups. You will find one helpful tiny nugget of information for every 100 bad reviews, because it's where people go to complain or ask questions that could be found on their booking confirmation. It's also filled with tons of misinformation because people will ask a question and then people will answer with what was true when they traveled. So you have people who may not have been on this cruise line for 10 years. You have people who may never been to this resort and they just like hanging out in these Facebook groups and answering questions based on what they've read online. You may have an AI response that is nowhere near true. And so for every little tiny nugget you may get, you are going to deal with a bunch of stuff that's going to make you very anxious about your upcoming vacation. Now, if you want to go into TripAdvisor every once in a while and just kind of take a peek at what the current reviews are, you may find out things like maybe an elevator's broken or maybe there was an issue with air conditioning. Now that's something, that would be helpful to know and something that as a travel agent I look into. So if we get a report that an elevator's down, I email the reps I know at the resort and be like, hey, is it going to be back up by this client's stay? You may hear reports of construction, but you have to trust yourself. You have to trust that you picked a good resort based on the information you had at the time. And being in those Facebook groups, if all they're doing is causing you anxiety, get out. Get out. I always say you should be looking forward to a vacation, not worried or stressed about it. If you are worried or stressed about it, you booked the wrong vacation or you're spending too much time in a Facebook group with a lot of people who complain. Mistake number 5 for some people is booking a non-refundable rate. Now, if you're a person who just can't stay out of those Facebook groups, please don't book a non-refundable rate because you will have no options to change. When you book a non-refundable rate, that means that resort or that cruise line has all your money and you're not getting it back. Now, in some cases, in the case of a cruise, you may be able to transfer it to another cruise. You may have to pay a penalty, but if you're booking a non-refundable rate, you are locked in. If you're a person that wants to be in those Facebook groups, wants to keep track of things, and you frequently change your mind, do not book a non-refundable rate. You want to be able to change your mind. If you're also a deal chaser, where let's say you're booking in June or July, because that's where the availability is, but you want to take advantage of Black Friday sales, you have to have booked a refundable deposit on your resort, your cruise, your tour, so that you can change that pricing. Most places won't let you apply new sales to old bookings, because basically what you're doing when you have a refundable deposit is you're canceling your booking and you're rebooking under the new rate. For my clients, I just do all that for them, so it's a very seamless process. If you had booked yourself, it may take a couple hoops. So a non-refundable rate may not be for you. Now, non-refundable rates have savings. The hotel or cruise line absolutely wants you to book a non-refundable rate. They want to keep that money. They want that money locked in. So they're willing to give you extra deals or extra savings on your cabin or your room to entice you to book that non-refundable rate. So if you are a person that can stick with your decision and that money savings is what's enabling you to go on this trip, then absolutely book that non-refundable rate. Know you're locked in and don't give it a second thought. But if you're a person who wants to have that flexibility, you want to chase a deal, you want to keep up in the Facebook groups, and you want to be able to change your mind, make sure you're booking a refundable rate. Mistake number 6, not planning for transportation at your destination. When we go through an itinerary with clients, we walk through every single step. How are you getting from where you're going to be to the airport? When you land in the country or city where your trip is starting from, how are you getting from the airport to the hotel? I think a lot of people just assume there's going to be an option, that there's going to be taxis, that there's going to be Uber, that there's going to be a hotel shuttle. That is not always true depending on where you're going. We've been places where the taxi line was 2 hours long at the airport. We've been places where there weren't taxis at all. We've been places that didn't have Uber. So I always recommend pre-booking your arrival transfer at your destination, especially if you're coming off of an overnight flight. There is nothing better in that haze of coming off of an overnight flight to see somebody at the bottom of an escalator with a sign with your name on it. You don't have to figure anything else out. You just need to get to the baggage claim. They can help you get there, help you get your luggage, and get you to your next location, which is usually a hotel. So think through that before you go. And if you want to kind of play it by ear, at least research what is there. Are there usually taxis available? Is Uber available in that area? So that you know what your options are. Call your hotel and ask your hotel what the options are. They're the best ones to tell you how to get to their hotel. I mean, sometimes people land and they don't know that their hotel is an hour from the airport because they never Google mapped it. They never looked at it. It just came up in a list of hotels in that city, but it's actually not in that city. It's in a suburb outside of that city, and it's an hour to get there. Maybe you want to look up what public transportation options are available when you land. We found in London it was so much easier just to get on the train to the main station, and then from the main station take a taxi. So make sure you think through, okay, I'm landing in this city, what happens next? Mistake number 7, overpacking or underpacking. Now, I usually see overpacking as a bigger issue. It is critically important that you have your most needed items with you on the plane. That is your identification, your jewelry, your medicine, a few days worth of clothes, maybe an extra pair of shoes, that all of this comes with you on the plane. What you want to ask yourself is, if my check bag gets lost, what could I live with for a few days until it's found and returned to me? And that's what you want in your carry-on. Now, most people don't need as much as they pack. We take carry-ons virtually everywhere. We do laundry when we travel, so we have some different options, so we don't have to pack as much as other people do who don't do laundry when they travel. We're also not fashionistas. You may have figured that out by now, that I'm not a fashionista. So I'm not trying to bring 3 different outfits a day with matching shoes and purses. That helps a lot. I think it's really helpful when you're going through your itinerary and you're preparing to pack that you lay everything out. So there's 2 kind of ways to pack. One way is to lay everything out and say, okay, Monday I'm gonna wear this, Tuesday I'm gonna wear this, Wednesday I'm gonna wear this, and then you kind of figure out how you're gonna mix and match, what you're gonna do. You can even take pictures of your outfits every day so you know kind of what you had in mind when you were packing when you get there. Other people like to just have options. So they say, I'm gonna take this pair of pants and these 3 tops that go with it, this skirt, these 2 tops that go with it, and then just kind of mix and match when they get there. You can figure out what works for you, but always when you're going through, be really careful not to overpack. Another good way to think about not overpacking is don't do laundry for a week, and then do laundry, and then look how much clothes you actually wore while you were at home. This will give you a good judge of how much underwear, how many socks, how many shirts, how many pants you need in a typical week. Now, obviously, if you're doing some type of excursion or special activity where you need special gear, that's a separate thing. But I think most of us wear less clothes than we think we're gonna wear. I mean, have you seen that, little meme, is that how you say it? Meme online, where it's like, every day I wear at leisure wear the same sweatpants and a different t-shirt, but I'm going on a trip, so is 2 or 3 ball grounds enough? Making fun of the fact that like we all kind of wear the same clothes every day, but when we go on vacation, we act like we need to change clothes every hour. So just keep that in mind, because chasing down luggage is a real bummer. It's not the way you want to start your day. Also, lugging around a ton of luggage is a real bummer. We stopped using large suitcases after we took one trip to Amsterdam, and we had to go up and down several flights of stairs with a 50-pound suitcase. At that point, we're like, nope, we are not taking 50-pound suitcases anymore. We're going to take smaller bags, 20 to 25 pounds, and a backpack that's usually around 10 to 15 pounds, and that's it. I don't want to be lugging 70 pounds of stuff up and down stairs if there doesn't happen to be an elevator available where we're going. Mistake number 8, ignoring travel insurance. I am a huge proponent of travel insurance. If you book with me, I always offer it. I always talk about it. I personally always get it. Some people will say it's a waste of money. It is a waste of money if you don't need it. And that's a good thing. That means nothing went wrong on your trip. There are different components of travel insurance. We've talked about this in other videos. We've talked about this in other blog posts. But what's important to me is you think through, what's my plan if something goes wrong? What's my plan? If someone at home has an emergency situation, if I have an emergency situation, what's my plan? Does your credit card have a high enough limit that you could just immediately pay off a hospital or an air evac to get you home? Does your credit card have a travel insurance policy? What's included in that? What are the cancellation policies of what you've booked? If you have a refundable deposit and there's no penalty if you cancel until the day before, maybe you don't need cancellation insurance because you're gonna know the day before if you're gonna go or not. I absolutely always buy supplemental medical insurance, and that can be super cheap. It can be like $50. That includes air evacuation and return to hospital of choice. Those are the 2 things you want to look for: air evacuation and return to hospital of choice. That gets you back to the United States. That's what you want. So as you're thinking about your trip, as the components are starting to add up, I know that travel insurance that includes cancellation coverage is usually between 7 to 12% of the non-refundable cost of your trip. And as things are starting to add up, that's one cost people try to cut. But really think through, what's my plan? What's my plan if something goes wrong? Because this is ensuring the thing you don't see coming. We all worry about the wrong things. I don't know if that's been your experience. Everything I'm worried about has never happened, and then the really, really bad things were something I never even occurred to me could happen. So I just like having that travel insurance as a little backup, so if something does go wrong, there is that support there. So those are the 8 things I see a lot of travelers go wrong. What do you think? Am I on base? Am I off base? Are there other mistakes you've made or seen other travelers make? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to read this instead of just listening to it, I'm going to link to a blog post I did in the first comment so you can check it out there. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more of my cruise ship tours, my all-inclusive resort reviews, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you along. And here's a couple more videos YouTube and I thought you might like.